I secretly sent my family nearly $500,000 over 9 years. And the night I almost died, my mother chose a slot machine over me. My name is Paige. And for 9 years, I carried a secret that slowly drained everything from me. My savings, my freedom, and nearly my sense of self-worth. It started when I was 25. I had just finished college, landed my first real job, and for the first time in my life, I genuinely felt like things were coming together. My apartment was small, my paycheck was modest, but it was mine. And I was proud of it. Then my phone rang. It was my mother, and she was crying. Not the soft kind of crying. The kind that makes your stomach sink before a single word is spoken. She told me my father had suffered a stroke. No health insurance. Medical bills piling up fast. The mortgage 3 months behind. And then she said the words that would quietly reshape the next decade of my life. Paige, I need you to send $2,000 a month. Just for a little while. And please, don't tell your father. He would be devastated to know we needed help. I didn't even pause to think. I just said yes. Because that's what you do when family calls in a crisis, right? What nobody warns you about is this. The moment you say yes without setting a boundary, you've already surrendered the negotiation. I just didn't know it yet. I set up the bank transfer that same night. And every month, without fail, $2,000 left my account. Every month, I waited for a thank you. What I received instead was a single sentence, delivered like it was obvious. This is what daughters do. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself they needed it more than I did. I kept repeating both lies until they started to feel true. Then, exactly 3 weeks after the first transfer, I went home for a visit, and I saw my sister Megan step through the front door carrying a brand new Louis Vuitton bag. I pulled my mother aside and asked, quietly, where it came from. She smiled and said, "Oh, I helped her out a little. She needed a confidence boost." That was the first lie I told myself. Maybe the bag was on sale. It wasn't. And somewhere deep down, I already knew that. Stay with me, because what happened over the next 9 years will make your jaw drop. The numbers got bigger, the lies got darker, and I had no idea just how far this was going to go. The $2,000 a month didn't last long. About a year in, my mother called again. This time, Megan had discovered her true passion, becoming a social media influencer. She needed to enroll in an online marketing program. The monthly transfer was going up to $3,500. My mother framed it as a family investment. A stepping stone. I rearranged my entire life to make it work. I cut my gym membership. I stopped eating at restaurants. I picked up weekend freelance projects. Meanwhile, Megan was posting lifestyle content in new outfits every week, and my mother tracked her follower count with the kind of pride and excitement she had never once shown for my career. My boyfriend Daniel noticed long before I was willing to admit it. He'd sit across from me at dinner and gently point things out. "Your mom called 4 times today, and not once did she ask how your promotion is going." It was all about Megan's latest post. I told him he didn't understand how our family worked. I believed that. Then came the next increase. $4,500 a month. "House repairs," she said. My father's medications were expensive now. I never asked for receipts. I never questioned the numbers. I just adjusted my budget and kept sending. For years before everything collapsed, my grandpa Harold called me completely out of nowhere. He asked me one quiet question. "Paige, is your mother good to you?" I said yes. He went silent for a moment, then said, "Call me if that ever changes." I didn't think much of it at the time. But when I was 33, pregnant, exhausted, and stretched impossibly thin, Daniel sat me down at the kitchen table with a spreadsheet he had built quietly, carefully, over months. He slid it across to me without a word. $486,000. Nearly $500,000. Gone. And that same week, I had scrolled past my mother's Facebook post, a smiling selfie from a spa day, captioned, "Self-care Sunday sun with Ray's hash," the very week she told me my father's prescriptions were bleeding them dry. Daniel looked at me and said, "Paige, if you keep doing this, what does our daughter grow up believing?" That her mother exists to be an ATM. I had no answer. I just sat there, staring at that number. $486,000. I thought finding out the total would be the worst part. I was wrong. 2 months later, I was in emergency surgery, and when Daniel called my mother begging for help, what she said next is something I will never forget for the rest of my life. I was 36 weeks pregnant when the truck ran the red light. It hit my car on the driver's side. I remember the sound, and then I remember nothing. I woke up in a hospital bed. Punctured lung. 3 broken ribs. A surgeon standing over me, speaking calmly, explaining they had performed an emergency C-section while I was unconscious. My daughter, Emma, had arrived 5 weeks early. 5 pounds, 3 ounces. She was in the NICU, fighting to breathe. Daniel was across the country on a business trip. He booked the first available flight, but he needed someone at the hospital now. So he called my mother. She lives exactly 20 minutes away. He heard slot machines in the background when she picked up. She said, "And I need you to really hear this," she said. "Daniel, Paige always has these emergencies. Your sister never creates these kinds of problems. I'm watching Megan's cat tonight. I can't just leave." Then she hung up. I lay in that hospital bed, hooked to machines, my newborn daughter fighting for her life 40 feet away, and I picked up my phone. I cancelled every single bank transfer. Every account. Every automatic payment. All of it. Gone, in 5 minutes. And then I cried, not entirely from pain. Partly from the strange, overwhelming feeling of relief. Daniel called Grandpa Harold. 3 hours later, my grandfather walked through the door of my hospital room, and with him came every truth I had spent 9 years avoiding. He told me he had known about the money for years. He had been watching quietly, tracking what he could. And then he told me something that made my breath stop. My mother had been working behind the scenes to have me removed from his will entirely. She had told him I was selfish, ungrateful, that I resented this family. I never believed a word of it, he said. My mother arrived at the hospital later that evening, flowers in hand, performing grief with practiced ease. But my father was already there. He had tracked her phone. He knew exactly where she had been. I looked at her and said, very quietly, "I heard every word you said to Daniel. Don't look to me for help anymore, Mom. I can't save you this time." But she wasn't done. 1 month later, at Emma's welcome home celebration, my mother said something, in front of everyone, that she never expected anyone to hear. And I made sure they all did. 1 month after Emma came home, we held a small celebration, a gathering of close family and a few friends to welcome our daughter into the world. I gave my mother one final opportunity to be different. Part of me still wanted to believe she was capable of it. I caught her in the hallway, phone pressed to her ear, whispering to Megan. She had no idea I was standing 3 feet behind her. She said, "Megan, I just need to keep Paige calm long enough to get back in front of Grandpa. She has a husband, a career, a house. Megan needs that inheritance far more than Paige does." There was a karaoke microphone sitting on the table from earlier in the evening. I walked over. I switched it on. Every single word my mother was saying traveled through those speakers, clearly, loudly, to every person in that room. The conversation stopped. The room went silent. I set the microphone down. And in the calmest voice I have ever used in my life, I said, "For 9 years, I sent this family $4,500 every single month. Nearly $500,000, while I cancelled vacations, skipped meals, and worked weekends. The night I almost died, you were at a casino. Today, you came here to protect an inheritance, not to meet your granddaughter. So I am saying this once, in front of everyone. We are done. Don't call. Don't come back. We are done." She screamed. She called me ungrateful and cruel. Then she left. And for the first time in 9 years, I felt the weight lift completely off my shoulders. Grandpa changed his will the following week, 70% to Emma, 20% to my father, and 10% to my mother and Megan, only if they completed 6 months of professional therapy. Without my monthly transfers, their lifestyle collapsed within weeks. Megan got her first real job at 29. My father called me, voice breaking, and said, "Paige, I was a coward for far too long. I am so sorry. You deserved so much better than what this family gave you." 1 year later, my mortgage is paid off. Emma's college fund is open and growing. I finally took that vacation I had been postponing for 3 years. Every Sunday, Grandpa Harold sits with Emma in the garden. He's writing his memoir. He says she's his inspiration. "I made my daughter one promise, and I'll leave you with it. Emma, you will never have to earn love that was always supposed to be yours. You are enough. Exactly as you are." Family is not about blood. Family is about who shows up.